Hey guys, it's Sean here. Thank you for joining me on today's video. Today I'm going to share with you 5 top tips when building your HMO. But first of all, don't forget to hit the subscribe and notification bell to stay up to date with our weekly updates. So tip number 1 is space always sells. In my HMOs, always consider space. So I don't like trying to cram too many people in such a small room. So what I try to do is I allow for at least 12 to 15 square meters when designing my HMOs. Saying that, 2 to 3 square meters is usually the ensuite size. So then we're left with like a 10, sometimes 12 square meters. And if you can go even higher, the 15 and 16 square meter rooms always sell. Tip number 2 is storage always sells as well. So I always love to put built-in wardrobes because purely after a year or two, if you buy something from IKEA or even like the other eBay or anything like that, it tends to fall apart after a year. So built-in wardrobes is really good and very cost effective. It also saves you a fortune when tenants start moving furniture around and they end up scratching walls, and it's just not very pleasant after a year having to disrupt tenants to go back in and replace. On top of that, we also have chest of drawers, we have bedside tables. Inside these bedside tables, we try and allow for 1 drawer. So again, it's these small little things to consider when designing a HMO, making sure there's plenty of storage, especially if you've got couples as well. If you've got couples, it's like 2 lots of people's clothes, so sometimes we'll have to plan a bigger wardrobe or even a taller set of chest of drawers. Sometimes we've got about 5 drawers in there. And other things to consider as well, you could have like under bed storage. I've not done that personally, but what I've bought in the past is beds that have available space where you can just slot maybe like a suitcase. And actually another development, I've allowed for space above the built-in wardrobe. So when people do come here on a short-term stay, they tend to put their big suitcases on top. At least it's out of the way. So tip number 3 is make sure you've got plenty of sockets in your rooms. What I mean by that is I tend to go for at least 1 socket per wall at a minimum. And really, you just got to put yourself in the shoes of a tenant, really. So if you lie in bed, you kind of want a socket, because these days you plug your phone in. We actually have USB on our sockets as well, so not only you've got double sockets, you've got 2 USB points which you can plug a phone. Nowadays people have Alexa or like some sort of home device, so these sockets tend to be used quite easily. You've also got desk space to consider, so I always allow for at least 2 sockets near a desk. If there's a TV mounted on the wall, again, another 2 sockets for the TV. Yes, the TV only needs 1 socket, but someone might have like a dongle for like Chromecast, and that can be plugged directly in, or you've got a spare socket for that as well. And then you've also got like hair dryers, especially ladies that have the straighteners. So not only you've got to consider sockets for like your everyday use, but also just consider what would a tenant use, or what would you use on a daily basis. So tip number 4 is things to consider with like flooring and appliances. So I use a rough carpet. It's like a twist carpet that it tends to be more durable, especially when you have a lot of foot traffic with tenants moving in within 6 months, and then some people move out, and then they have guests that come over. So these carpets tend to last quite long. And also I use like vinyls in communal areas and en-suites. It's quicker to fit down. I know some people tend to like use tiles, but then after like a year or 2 the grout starts to go. And also tiling for like bathrooms as well. So some of my developments we've done tiling all around and gone for like a darker grout, so you can't really see the mildew and that black mold stuff. But on other, or most of them actually, I've gone for like a panel. So if you think about a whole panel, you've only got a grout or like silicone, pretty much 4 sides rather than each individual tile. So I find that works quite well with our developments. Just purely on a management perspective, because over the years rooms and en-suites do age, no matter how much you clean them. In fact, actually, another tip is we send cleaners in every fortnight to keep the communal areas clean. When tenancies are up to 6 months, we tend to book them in to clean the en-suites as well, just to make sure they're working properly as well as looking good, and it saves a lot of time and hassle when people do move out and you've got to go back in and clean them again. Tip number 5 is communal space. So something that I never really considered when I started my property journey, because I was just trying to turn over as many HMOs as possible and sticking to just slightly above the minimum, which is around the 80 square meters for 6 people. But what I never considered was, if I have like a group of students and all these guys want to chill in the living room as well as eat there, so what I had to consider was putting sofa space. So if you've not seen my video on the Ashbourne Road, that's a perfect example of where we've incorporated plenty kitchen space, plenty room for dining and seating in an orderly manner where it's not too cramped, and it's not like you've just literally dumped a sofa in the middle of the kitchen. And it creates better harmony, because I think what we forget is, despite all this COVID stuff, HMOs tend to be for like social interaction. You do get like 6 people that don't know each other. It is kind of nice to get people around the table, cook dinners together. Might not be the whole house, but at least 2 or 3 people within the household would be quite nice for them to sit down and chill. So that's it for my 5 top tips of things to consider in your HMO. I hope it was useful for you guys, and next week I'm really excited to share with you the Pub to 7 studios. It's totally finished. I'm actually sitting here right now in one of the studios, so stay tuned. Remember to hit subscribe and notification bell. We'll see you next week.